Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Georgia. I hope you're well. Today I'm going to be doing a 24-hour reading challenge. Now, all the way back in June of 2024 I did one of these and I managed 3 books. I said in that video that I'm going to be doing these all the time. I want to do one a month. I want to really get my reading numbers up, and then I never did another one after that. So sat here nearly a year later, I am finally going to do another reading challenge. So let's just do it. Let's get into it. If you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And as always, my social media, my Amazon wishlist, my Goodreads and my business email are all in the description bar below. Let's just crack on. Let's get into it. So I know what I'm starting with and I have a plan for after that, but equally I'm not going to be super strict to it either. Like if I end the first book and I'm not feeling the others on my TBR, I'm just going to pick something else. Now also, before I get into my planned TBR, I'm going to do this split over 2 days. So I'm going to do 12 hours on Saturday, hopefully. I'm going to do 12 hours today and I'm going to do 12 hours tomorrow, and I'm going to split it up like that just so that I'm not reading for a full 24 hours. I know my limits. So I have already started book 1. So this is None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. Now this is a thriller. So I'm planning on starting with this one. I'll give you my thoughts on that one in a minute. I also have Shadow and Bone by Leah Bardugo. Now this is the second book that I'm planning to read in this video. Don't know if it's my brightest idea reading a fantasy, but it's a relatively short one, so I'm hoping to get to this one in this video as well. And then the final one on my planned TBR is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. All 3 of these books are on my TBR for this month, so I figured this would be a good way to get through my planned TBR as well. So this is my plan, but whether this happens is a whole other story. So like I said, I have already started this one here. So this is None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I have read a couple of books by this author already and I really enjoyed those, but equally at the minute I'm just not loving thrillers. So I'm intrigued to see how I get on with this. I am about just under halfway, so I'm at part 2 of this. So just to give you a bit of a rundown, this is about our main characters Alex and Josie. They're birthday twins, so they meet in like a restaurant on their like birthday meals. So Josie's there with her husband and Alex is there with all her friends and family. And Alex is a podcaster, so she does podcasts on like women who have basically like taken charge of their life. Well, Josie sort of intentionally bumps into Alex in the ladies' toilets of this restaurant and she's like, oh, happy birthday, like we're birthday twins. Josie then sort of like has a bit of a stalk and figures out some information about her, and then Josie intentionally bumps into her again a bit later on and they strike up a conversation and they basically arrange to go for coffee, where Josie persuades Alex to start like this new series of a podcast, like of doing the podcast whilst that's happening rather than just after the event when it's all already changed and better. And Alex reluctantly agrees, and then it kind of goes from there. So at the minute we're just sort of learning bits and bobs about them. It's all in third person and it is kind of dual POV. It is also technically dual timeline. So like we get what's happening now, and we also get, let me just try and find an example. We get like this stuff. So it's basically like clippings from the podcast. It sort of like gives some information of like what was recorded on the podcast, and then it goes back into the timeline of now where they're sort of discussing it in real life. So I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but so far I'll be honest, I'm not loving it. I've been reading for 3 hours now. So I did some this morning and then my dad nipped over and I had a cup of coffee with my dad, and then my dad's now gone, so I'm going to get back to it. So I've done 3 hours, just over. I'm going to get back into reading this, but like I say, I'm not loving it at the moment. I do struggle with thrillers, but I really wanted to see if this could sort of like save it. I'm not hating it. It's a lot of just like character building and a bit of background. Josie's up to no good. I can tell you that now. She's up to no good. She's being sneaky, she's being weird. I don't quite know what's going on with her. But I also don't really know where this is going at the minute. Like I know obviously it's a thriller. Bad things are going to happen, but I couldn't tell you now what I think is going to happen necessarily. I'm going to keep going, see how we get on, and I will be back to you if I have any more big thoughts, or if not, I'll come back to you at the end of the book. guys enjoy my book while I am, because I feel very little towards this right now. I am currently at 6 hours and 7 minutes and I have just finished this book. I feel nothing towards this. Like, I have just spent 6 hours reading this book that I absolutely should have DNF'd at the last check-in, to be honest. So when I first told you guys about this book, I'd said then that I didn't particularly love it, but it was just building characters, and I was like, okay, there could be something really big and exciting that happens to sort of like bring me some form of excitement and some form of like, oh my god. And don't get me wrong, the ending was okay. And let me say that if I read this probably about 3 years ago, I would have devoured this and absolutely loved it. I think it's a me problem. I don't love thrillers anymore. I struggle to get into them. I find them quite predictable, and I think that they're all just very samey. I think I last filled you in when I got to about part 2, was it? And it did all sort of start happening after that. So Josie had said about them all having a meal. They'd started making the podcast, so Josie and Alex had got to know each other quite well. So Josie got with her husband when she was 15 and he was like in his 40s. There was a very big age gap. And her life all sort of happened really fast. So they were like married and had kids by the time she was like 19. They've both obviously had very different upbringings. So they say that they're doing this podcast as sort of like a nature nurture thing. But it is basically them just, Josie, trying to change her life and stuff. So she convinces her husband Walter to have like a double date sort of meeting at Alex's house. So they all go for dinner at Alex's house. So Josie and Walter arrive. And Alex and her husband are having a lot of problems, so Alex's husband isn't there. They have arrived, there's no sign of her husband, Nathan, and they have a meal, but Nathan's never arrived. It basically just doesn't go very well. Josie says some things out of turn about Alex's relationship. They go home, and then later on that night, Josie arrives back at Alex's house with like a black eye and cuts on the back of her head, and they look like as if Walter's basically abused her and things, and then it sort of plays on from there. So Josie ends up staying at Alex's and just sort of like refusing to leave and finding reasons to stay there. And it's all very weird, but it basically comes to light as they go through this podcast, and she continues to tell Alex about her life, all this sort of like unusual stuff. I'm not going to say much more. I don't want to ruin it for those of you that do like thrillers. This does run like a true crime sort of documentary. It is good. The storyline's alright. I'm just not loving thrillers at the moment. I feel like, because I'm so used to sort of like all these fantasies with so much going on, that the amount of time that we spend building up to this is just a bit like, eh. I didn't love it. I'm sitting around a 2.5 at the minute. I didn't love it. Not the greatest start to my 24-hour reading challenge, but 6 hours down, 1 book finished. Let's pick another book and keep going. So with my planned TBR, I had said about reading Shadow and Bone or The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I'm going to be totally honest with you, I don't want to read either of these right now. That book's left me feeling a bit like, eh. So I've got like these Lauren Asher ones here. So I was thinking maybe something like this. This is quite a short one. It's the first one in a series that I've not read yet, and I really like Lauren Asher's writing. If I just fold this down, maybe like a country romance. So I think my other option could be A Photo Finish by Elsie Silver. When I'm in a slump, Elsie Silver gets me straight out of it. I do think I'm feeling country, but I think I'm going to go for this one. So it's only book 2 and I'm already scrapping my TBR, but that's okay. So this follows, I had read the back of this already just because this is Violet's story, which I've been waiting for. We see this relationship in Powerless, which is book 3 in the Chestnut Spring series. If you've read book 1, that follows Billy and Vaughan. So Billy is Violet's best friend and Vaughan is Cole's brother. So this follows Violet and Cole. So Violet is she was a horse groomer, and she is basically trained up to be the jockey for the horse racing. We also have Cole. So Cole is sort of like a grumpy guy. He was in the military, yeah, former soldier. Yeah, so it's a bit of like a grumpy sunshine situation. I met Violet Eaton online. What happened between us in our chats were meant to stay anonymous and in the past until it didn't. So there's a bit of like not an altercation, but there's a bit of like something going on by the end of book 1. So it has sort of hinted at this happening. But we'll jump into this and see how we get on. I'm looking forward to this one. I read book 1 last month and I didn't love it as much as I hoped I would. So like all of the Chestnut Spring series were like 5-star and above for me. But book 1, I think I only rated 3.5 if I remember correctly. So I'm hoping that this sort of redeems it a little bit because I really want to love this series. So I'm going to get into this one. Good morning everybody, welcome to day 2 of my 24-hour reading challenge. I finished it. I do realise I didn't give you a single update throughout this book, but honestly I just got a bit lost in it. I was really enjoying it. So I sat and read for roughly another 4 or 5 hours last night. We had a fire in the garden and I sat and read my book, and it was just a really lovely night. And then by the time we come back inside it was quite late. I was tired, so I didn't end up filming. So we're currently on 12 hours and 55. I got up to about, I want to say about 75% last night, and then I got up this morning, had some breakfast and finished reading this with my breakfast. So I am going to just give you my thoughts and feelings on this one, and it's a bit easier to review when you're reviewing the whole thing. So just to give you some information then, the sort of like deal with this couple is basically Violet posted a photo when she was younger of herself on like this forum. She was just moved out of like living with a very protective family, so she was just sort of experimenting. She posted this photo online of herself in like this underwear, and she got speaking to Cade. It was, no, I keep calling him Cade, it's Cole. Cade's her brother, let's not call him Cade. So she got speaking to Cole online. It was all anonymous. I think they'd done sort of like one photo each, and then he was trying to sort of strike up this deal of basically like him paying her and her just keeping him company online and sending him photos and, you know, that sort of relationship. But she didn't agree to it, but they just sort of like were chatting anyway. So they were talking back and forth online for like, I think it's over a year, and they got really close and really starting to get to know each other. Went a bit far one night. She ended up video calling him, doing this, like doing as she was told on this video chat basically, and then him not giving that back in return. So it all just went a bit pear-shaped. They had a massive falling out and she just like deleted everything and just never went back on it. So during this book you do get, and I really like how they've done it actually, so you get the current timeline, and then being on the ranch together you get some information about when they were talking online, which I really like. So we've got a bit of like a dual timeline going on as well, so you get like insight into what it was like before, and then you get the current timeline and them sort of getting to know each other now. Cade tells her at the end of that race that she wins at the beginning of book 1 that it's him. It basically calls her by her user, like her online username, and breaks the it was anonymous before, now it's not, I can't say it. You know what I mean? So she's like quite shocked because obviously they're now working together. It's them sort of trying to navigate that. So Cole is a very like private person. He's a former soldier. He's very anxious. He's been through a lot. At the beginning of the book she has an injury, and basically that injury means that rather than staying in her sort of like second floor apartment, she ends up having to stay with him because it's the only sort of living space that doesn't have stairs. So they basically, it's forced proximity, they end up having to stay together in the same house. So it's them sort of like dealing with that because they don't really like each other, they're on really rocky terms, it's all really awkward because of their past. It's just, oh, do you know what, I don't want to say much because it's so hard to like describe books without spoiling them. Yeah, it's them sort of navigating backwards and forwards with that. So Vaughn and Cole's dad had an injury at horse racing where he died. The third act conflict for this one is sort of regarding that. Obviously Violet is a horse racer, so Cole really wants to like support her with her career because this is what she's always wanted, but at the same time watching her fall off horses is just such a triggering thing for him because he watched his dad die like that. The third act conflict in this is completely understandable, which I do really like. Like I hate when it's just sort of like petty breakups, whereas this one is completely understandable. Like I get both sides. I do also like how this one is resolved. So like I like how Cole sort of makes the effort to deal with his trauma and understand it all more so that he can support her in her dreams. So I just think it's really sweet. I really like this one. I'm going to rate this one 4 stars. I do really like it. I'm happy with it all. I don't really have any bad things to say about it. It just didn't give me that 5-star feeling. But I did really enjoy this one. So back happy with my reading. 4 stars. I really enjoyed this. I really like Elsie Silver's writing, so I'm glad that this series has sort of like been redeemed with this book. We now have to pick book 3 for this reading vlog, so I still have 11 hours to go. So I've been averaging just over 6 hours a book so far. I'm gonna have a think, or do I just be good and read off my TBR? So maybe I do read Shadow and Bone. Is reading a fantasy in the middle of a 24-hour reading challenge a stupid idea though? I'm going to stick to my TBR that I had planned for this video, and I'm going to read Shadow and Bone next. Literally all I know about this book is what's on the back. So she is a soldier. When her regiment is attacked whilst crossing the Shadow Fold, Alina unleashes dormant magic not even she knew she possessed. Now Alina will enter a lavish world of royalty and intrigue as she trains with the Grisha, her country's magical military elite, and fall under the spell of their notorious leader, the Darkling. He believes Alina can summon a force capable of destroying the Shadow Fold and reuniting their war-ravaged country, but only if she can master her untamed gift. But as Alina unlocks the secret of her past, she will make a dangerous discovery that could threaten all she loves and the very future of her nation. So it does sound very intriguing. I'm assuming that that could be the shadow fold. I don't know. I do not know. I don't know. I'm gonna commit. I'm just gonna do it. I'm on the 13-hour mark, so I have 11 hours to go. So I think we can squeeze this in and then maybe one little book after this if we crack on and get this done. So I'm gonna do exactly that. I'm gonna crack on and get this done. So let's get cozy and let's read Shadow and Bone. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna commit. Let's go. I am at chapter 6, so I am literally less than 100 pages in. Honestly, so much is happening in this book, like so much is going on. I'm going to try and give you a bit of an update, but if I'm completely honest with you, I'm not 100% what's going on myself. It seems like a really interesting concept, but if I'm being 100% honest with you, I don't fully understand it. So we have our main character, Alina. She was an orphan, and she was basically orphaned with this man called, or this kid called Mal. And all children are tested when they're younger to see if they have Grisha power. They were both tested when they were younger, didn't have power, so then they get sent, I don't really know what it's classed as, but like they're basically into the first army. So you have that first bit and then it goes to like lots of years later. So now Mal is a tracker for the first army and Alina is a cartographer, and basically they go on this bit like mission to cross the fold. There's like a big group of them and they're on, I imagine them as like ships. What actually is a skiff? Let's Google it. What's a skiff? It's a boat. So it's like a boat. Can you see that? It's a boat. They are crossing the Shadow Fold, which I was right in my guess. This is the Shadow Fold, also known as the Unsea. So they're on one of those like skiffs and they're crossing the Shadow Fold, and basically it doesn't go to plan and they are attacked by, is it Volcra? Those with big wings. You can't see it really well because it's in the crease of the book, but that's a Volcra. Alina has a bit of a thing for Mal, I think. There's a bit of a romance history thing there, and Mal is attacked and gets injured, so Alina sort of like runs to try and protect him and save him, and in doing that she ends up unleashing this light, which is Grisha power. And now obviously she was tested when she was younger and she had no power, so it's a big like sort of confusion. And those that aren't killed or severely injured get taken back to sort of like where they were, which I've already forgotten the name of. I'm gonna put it on screen. I'm not even gonna try and pronounce that. They go back here, which is sort of like where they're from. Whilst there, she gets questioned by the Darkling and everyone's asked to come forward as like witnesses and things. So from there, she is taken to sort of like the palace for training. So she's now being trained as Grisha, and well, she's not being trained yet, but she's been taken there to be trained as Grisha. So when I say there's a lot going on, I mean there's a lot going on. So this might not have been my brightest move because my head hurts. Like I genuinely have headache. And I think this might be causing it. I am just over an hour into this book and my head already hurts. But there does seem to be a bit of an interest into the Darkling. He is the best of the Grisha army. I'm assuming that there's going to be a bit of a romance between them. I'm intrigued to see what they do with this and where it goes from here. So I'm going to keep reading and I will update you later. It is now much later on. I have just finished Shadow and Bone. So 19 hours and 14 minutes in and I have finally finished. Not gonna lie, I ended up having to put it down, have a nap. I do still have headache now, so I think it's just gonna be one of those that's not gonna go away until I've had some proper sleep. I did enjoy this one. I think I'd have enjoyed it a lot more if I weren't reading it with a headache. I think I'd have understood it a lot better if I weren't reading it with a headache. I don't feel like I've took it all in. I don't feel like I've actually absorbed all of the information. I don't feel like I fully understood what was going on a lot of the time. But I do think that's a massive me problem, not anything against the book. She trained with the Grisha. There was this training with a woman that was helping her with her actual powers. She had training in like combat and fighting and things. So there were a bit of like a romance between her and the Darkling, which I did sort of predict early on, I think. But she and the Darkling, like I say, sort of like spark up a bit of a romance. And then a lot of stuff about the Darkling sort of comes to light towards the end of this book. Grisha people can have amplifiers to amplify their magic. So the best amplifier is the antler of these like white deer that nobody's ever actually seen. They are on this mission to find deer. They have a name, can't remember what it is. But they basically, the Darkling gets Mal in to help track, because Alina's already told the Darkling that he's the best tracker that there is. So Mal gets brought in to help find these deer. Her and Mal have this sort of like, not fight, but bit of an altercation regarding the whole situation, how she's been living it up in this castle while he's been like back where they were. He didn't know what had happened, if she were dead. She literally just got taken and that was that. It's really hard to explain books without ruining them, but basically a lot of stuff comes to light about the Darkling and how his intentions aren't as like good as he portrays. So I think the magic system is interesting and different, and I like the sort of like, it's not really a love triangle, but I like that we have that sort of romance with the Darkling and her sort of getting over Mal, and then Mal coming back into it all and it all being a bit up in the air and then being on the run and stuff like that. So it is really interesting and so much happens in this book. Yes, so I'm at 19 hours and 20 minutes. I am going to leave it for today. I'm going to go to sleep. I'm not going to lie, I still have a headache, so I'm going to go to sleep, and then unfortunately I will be dragging this reading challenge out onto a third day. So I'll get up in the morning, we'll pick a book together and then read that and see how we go from there. We are on the final part of my 24-hour reading challenge. Got roughly 3 hours and 45 minutes left, and the only book I think I'll be able to get finished in that time is this one right here. So this is Entangled by Vera Kane. This is a Tangled Disney retelling. It's a mafia romance. Well, I'll read you the back. I've lived the last several years of my life under the control of my stepmother, every decision taken away from me, completely suffocating me. At 18, she sold me to the highest bidder and traded me for one gilded cage for another. I've never been anything but a dollar sign to her. Until 2 years later, Cade Luchetti kidnapped me from my tower, making me another dictator's ragdoll. I've never known freedom, free to make the decisions that impact my life, but as time goes on, under his watchful eye, I feel I can finally take a breath. Maybe I won't always be a prisoner. So that's from Soren, who I'm assuming is our Rapunzel. Hello. And then we have Cade. So it just says, this life of bloodshed and violence, I was born into it. It's exhausting and I'm tired of it. My father made it my sole duty to keep an eye on the broken mafia princess. Just maybe if I play my cards right, she could be my way out. A way to leave this life once and for all. I didn't plan on falling in love with her. The glass pieces of her soul just as shattered as mine. Let's just crack on. I do like mafia romance, and I've been looking for some more mafia romances recently anyway, so hopefully this one will be good. So I'm just gonna get to reading. So I've just got to chapter 9 in this book, so I just want to give you a bit of an update. It's okay. Just to give you some like plot points. So it starts off with Soren and Soren's dad. So Soren's dad is a mafia boss, but he has kept her sort of like as sheltered from it all as humanly possible, so they still have a really lovely father-daughter relationship. Basically, to long story short, her stepmom poisons her dad and kills him. We jump to like a bit later on, and basically Soren's stepmom is a bitch. Soren's stepmom is now sort of mafia queen, and she decides to sell Soren off to the highest bidder. Once she turns 18, she is then married to a man called Jude. Now Jude is, I think it's more Jude's dad, but Jude's family are another big like mafia family. Soren ends up marrying him, and it kind of joins their forces within the mafia. So Jude is absolutely horrible to our main character Soren. So she is literally locked away until it comes to sort of like business meetings and things. There's a plot of land that becomes available that the Luchetti family believe should be theirs, but that Soren's husband and her stepmom believe should be theirs. So they have a business meeting to sort of come to an understanding on who's actually going to get this land. Soren has to go with them to this business meeting, and whilst they're there, obviously Soren meets Cade. The business meeting doesn't really go to plan. Basically, by the end of this meeting, they still haven't decided who should get the land. So they all go home, go their separate ways or whatever, and then the Luchetti family decide that kidnapping the mafia princess is the best way to go about this, as sort of like leverage. So basically, Cade sneaks into the house and kidnaps Soren while she sleeps, and takes her back to his house. But now we are like a few weeks, well, she's been there for a while, she's like just stayed in a room, but Cade's been sort of like really sweet. She seems like weirdly okay about the fact that she's been kidnapped. I get she's come from a very, very, very shit situation, but like she's not even sort of like questioned or kicked off about the fact that she's been kidnapped. She's just kind of been like, yeah, alright. And I get that her situation was really shitty, but I still find it a little bit weird that she was just like so okay with the fact that she's been kidnapped. So I don't know. That's where we're at, so I'm going to keep reading. I'm not loving it, but I'm not hating it. It's really easy writing, it's very easy to understand. I'm going to continue reading and we'll just see how we go. Do you know what? I enjoyed this book. I have now finished it. I have 19 minutes to spare as well, so I'm very chuffed with myself for that. I enjoyed it. It was okay. It's a very quick and easy book. It's not very in-depth. I do feel like the book could have done with being a little bit longer. I wouldn't say it's by any means like a must-read for everybody, but if you're just wanting something really quick and easy and sort of like doesn't take a lot of brain power, I do recommend this one. I think I last updated you when she'd sort of just been started living there, hadn't she? Basically, they started spending some more time together, so Soren and Cade are just sort of like getting to know each other a little bit, and it's all a bit strange. Like, she is very comfortable with the guy who kidnapped her, and it was very sort of like acceptable behaviour, but I guess when you're living in such a shit situation that it kind of makes sense, because it's sort of swapping one evil for another, but at least this evil isn't abusing you. She does obviously fall in love with her kidnapper, and they do hit it off quite quickly. There's some good spicy scenes, but they are very short, so they're quite intense, but they're only sort of like span over 2 pages, which was a bit like whiplashy, but they were still fun spicy scenes. Like this, the gym scene, very lovely. One thing I did find very strange was like he invites her to dinner with his family. Like they have no idea where she stands. Like my mind was instantly like she could just be pretending to be like uncomfortable with her husband, and like they could actually be like working together to try and infiltrate his family, and like they're all just sat around the dinner table having a lovely little chit chat. And I don't know, that just didn't quite sit very well with me. But hey, like I said, very easy book to read, so maybe if you just don't think too much about it, you'd enjoy it more. So there is like a bit of a third act breakup in this, in that obviously she was kidnapped as leverage, so at some point she had to go home, and Cade was a bit like, I don't really want to do that. So it obviously gets a little bit intense in that perspective. So they tried to do the trade-off. Her stepmom and husband sort of accept that they can have the land, but they need her back, and then Cade kind of gets all like, well actually no, she's mine, I'm gonna keep her, which is sort of how I expected it to play out, but that was fine. So there's obviously quite a bit of a fight scene with that, which I enjoyed, but again I think could have been a little bit longer, could have been explained a little bit more. So after that, and like she goes back with them and she stays with that family, but then obviously there's retaliation from that, and Soren gets taken, so then it's kind of how that plays out. But again, it was very quick, and I feel like this could have been played out a lot longer, made for a longer book, but it would have been beneficial for the story, I think, just to have that little bit more. There's a lot going on, but I don't feel like it's all done very well. Like, they're taking Soren back, and sort of like Cade's reaction to that is just kind of like, oh well, that's annoying, and then they just go and get her. I feel like his reaction to it could have been a lot stronger, and also they get her back really easily, and I just think it feels a little bit rushed, is basically what I'm trying to say. It's an easy story to read. It was perfect for the end of my reading challenge. I mean, I read this in less than 4 hours, so it is super quick, but it's not a masterpiece, but it's still a good time. I'm thinking maybe like a 3-star. I liked the concept, I liked the writing, it's very easy to read, but I think there needs to just be more detail. They're my final thoughts on this book. You know what, I'm really chuffed with myself. Did a book more than last time. Yes, it's a very small book, but I still did 4 books in 24 hours, which I am very impressed with myself about. I will definitely take that. So maybe next time we can try and actually do this split over 2 days. So as an overview, I read 4 books in this challenge. So the first book I read was None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. Now, as I've sat and thought on this, I am definitely sticking to a 2.5 rating. I didn't love it. But as I said when I read this on Saturday, God, where has the time gone? I think 3 years ago, I would have absolutely devoured this and been obsessed with it. So I think it's a me problem, not a book problem. I then went on to read a photo. God, that was Yorkshire, wasn't it? I then went on to read A Photo Finish by Elsie Silver. Now, I did enjoy this one. This is probably my favourite of all the books that I've read in this 24-hour reading challenge. Elsie Silver, you just can't go wrong. And it was a perfect little refresher that I needed in the middle of this. So I really enjoyed this one. Violet and Cole's story, which I was really looking forward to from having seen glimpses of it in Chestnut Springs. So I really enjoyed this one. 4 stars for this. This one has just sort of gone into a bit of a grey area in my brain. I enjoyed it. At the time, I had a headache. It was rough. I did enjoy this one, and I do think I'm just going to stick to the 4-star in retrospect as well. I had a good time. It's definitely a lot going on and not the best idea to read in the middle of a 24-hour reading challenge. I think I'd have enjoyed it more if I was just reading it day to day than I had just sitting here and trying to read it all, sort of thing. So 4 stars. And then the last one, Vera Kane's Entangled. Good time, easy reading. Not the best writing I've ever read. A little bit rushed, could have done with being a little bit longer, but still a nice easy read. So I enjoyed this one, and I think, yeah, 3 stars for this one. So that is everything for this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I enjoyed doing this. I definitely want to do some more in the future. I have learned that I can't just sit and read all day, but maybe next time we can go for a 12 and 12 and not have a headache and fall asleep. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you're doing well, and if you want to see some more of these videos, do let me know. And if so, what sort of book should I read? Should we do like another romancy one, because I do feel like they're the easiest to read in these sort of challenges. So maybe I'll do another reading romance for 24 hours like I did with the first reading challenge I did. But I also really like the idea of my seasonal ones. So thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you're well. Take care.